All right, what's up, guys? It's Justin Kahn from Fractal, back at it again with another Fractal Radio where we interview the most amazing blockchain games and developers out in the ecosystem, bringing you the next kind of Web3 gaming experience. Today, I am super excited to be joined by the founders of Honeyland, Corey and Justin. Justin, great name. Thank you for being born with it. And we're going to talk about their project. So, guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having us, man. Super pumped to be here.
Amazing. Okay, so tell us about Honeyland. It's what I know is it's a bee-themed game. You have this colony of bees. Sounds like they were invaded and then they were sent out in the world to explore and find a new home or something like that, right? Tell me about the game.
Yeah, exactly. And so now it's your job. The player essentially comes in, assumes the role of beekeeper, and it's their job to manage that colony to help grow and strengthen it over time, and then send those bees out on missions to go find tokens and NFTs in Honeyland, bring those back to the hive, which then can be used again to strengthen the colony or transact in the Honeyland marketplace or buy new NFTs, breed, all sorts of different things that players will be able to do. But the idea is that they're essentially managing and organizing and growing their colony of bees over time.
Amazing. And it has a lot of Pixar vibes, picking up with this really cool cartoon characters. Like, tell me about how you guys came together to start this project. Like, what are your backgrounds? How did you end up running a bee game, a bee-themed universe on the blockchain?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so we're two of the four core team members. So there's two others,
Yep.
Brendan and Apoorv as well. And Apoorv had this kind of vision for building a Web3 game last year in 2021, and started going to conferences. Ultimately, found a studio that he fell in love with, partnered or bought the studio, and then reached out to Justin, who he's known for a decade now. We're all founders, entrepreneurs. We've all, started and grown and sold businesses, all in the tech space, varying different kind of disciplines. Justin being very much in like growth and user acquisition and mobile ad tech. Apoorv being very similar. Myself being more like SaaS and e-commerce. But we're just entrepreneurs and founders at heart. And through the network have kind of known each other. And so when Apoorv reached out to Justin, shared with him this vision of building a Web3 game, and not just any Web3 game, but really building something that would be a household name in the Web3 gaming space, and wanted to kind of assemble the team. It became a little bit Ocean's 11-ish, and Justin called me and then called Brendan, and we kind of assembled this team and really quickly just gelled. And since November, we've been just grinding, working on building a really big Web3 gaming project, and it's been a lot of fun. So we're very distributed. We're different parts of United States and Puerto Rico, and Dubai is where our team is. Our studio is over in Dubai as well. And so, we've got just kind of distributed all over the world, but it makes it really, really cool. So a team of basically founders, executors, operators that have come together to build a really, really cool project. And, we're very much a mission and values-based team, which I think is really, really cool. And I think that comes from, our background in running businesses as much as it is in just like gaming or Web3 gaming, or Web3 industries. And so I think that's, part of what's really helping to drive us and give us clear direction and vision as a team together.
What kind of game is this? Like, what's the core, game that's at the heart of the you call it the Infiniverse, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would call it so it's a really interesting question. So Honeyland as the core play to own game is a strategy and resource management game. We see Honeyland as the entry point into the Honeyverse, which creates this Infiniverse. And so what you'll come to find out is that really Honeyland is 4 projects in one. So you have the play to own game where you assume the role of beekeeper. You organize, manage, grow your colony of bees. You transact in the marketplace. We also have the NFTs, which are playable NFTs within Honeyland. But we've really split that into kind of 2 collections, and I'm sure that we'll talk about this. Our upcoming Genesis Mint collection, or Genesis collection, which we'll be minting, is standalone outside of Honeyland, will be an incredible NFT community and project that we're putting a lot of extra energy and effort into as a standalone NFT project. It will also carry the most value and utility inside of Honeyland. So bees that have unlimited breeding and breed the highest bees in terms of traits, they have the highest traits themselves. And so a lot of utility inside of Honeyland, but we're building it to build a community outside of it that will provide a ton of value outside of the utility in the game. So standalone NFT project. We're then building an open developer ecosystem. This is kind of the third project of Honeyland, which means as soon as we launch the game, we'll be opening up our APIs and creating SDKs, software developer kits, so that other developers can start to build games inside of Honeyland on top of our assets. So take all of our items and NFTs and land, take all the marketplace and tokenomics, take all the token that we built, take the players that we have showing up on a daily basis, and they can build games inside of Honeyland on top of all those assets. And so these can be skill or skill-based games, luck and chance-based games. It can be free-to-play games with unlockable or upgradable experiences to unlock new levels or items. And so when somebody comes into Honeyland, Play and Own is the staple game that most people are coming for, bringing their NFTs in, playing and owning and earning assets in the game. But then that game mall gives them unlimited game experiences and activity experiences where they can never really get bored. And so it becomes a really cool, this is where we call it the Infiniverse. There's infinite opportunities. And that fourth project is we're building a gamified DEX. So we want people, I talked about us being a mission-driven company. Our long-term mission is that we want to introduce crypto and DeFi to millions of people by making it fun and easy to understand. We want to cross that chasm of people who are crypto curious, but there's too much fear or fiction or it's not fun enough that they just don't really ever want to get involved. And we want to make it fun enough. We want to reduce the friction. We want to be able to educate people on how they can confidently move into the crypto and DeFi world and make it fun through Honeyland and accomplish that mission to allow millions of people to cross that bridge and enter and get introduced into DeFi and crypto. And so it's 4 projects in one, but that's why we call it the Infiniverse, because once you're in through Honeyland, the play to own game, you'll have infinite opportunities to start to take all sorts of different game loops and player experiences.
That's awesome. There's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
One thing I love about crypto projects, or some of them, and some of these NFT projects and games, is that it's kind of a blend of like an economic platform, a game, a community, and it seems like you guys are tackling all of that at once. I want to dig into the thing that's really interesting to me is the developer platform. Actually, it's like one of my hypotheses in this space is that some of the biggest games, will become not just like a single game, but like a platform on top of which other people build their own games and experiences, because you're putting all these assets on the open web. People are able to do with them what they want. They can trade them. They can use them inside of other games. They link them to other smart contracts. And so I'm really excited about that. That's really that's interesting. Like, how do you think? Like, what do you think the first experiences that people will build on top of Honeyland are, or on top of the Honeyland assets?
Yeah, so call it, I don't know, whatever you want, but it's funny that you say that. So about 2 months ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, I heard you on a Twitter Spaces. Yat was there were some other people, and they kind of asked for like closing thoughts. And that was your closing thought, was that you really felt like this is where Web3 was heading. And I was like, Justin would be a perfect investor for this project. So I DM'd you through Twitter. I didn't get a response. But
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm not asking for a response, but it was a couple weeks later that we ultimately ended up connecting with Fractal, which is kind of a way that we can have you as a backer to this project, and something that I know that you believe in because of that. And so, what do I see the first experiences being? We kind of are explaining this as like a Web3 Roblox. So I would expect a lot of the types of games that you see mobile or like tablet-based games that tend to be popular through Roblox or the App Store are going to be mirrored inside of Honeyland. So you can have things like everything from like Fashion Famous, right, which is what my daughter plays, where you go and you try and dress up like some theme through this store, and then you can become a VIP where you can pay a little bit more. Or I see a lot of opportunities for like PvP type things, like Pegaxi or Zed Run, where you could be racing your bees, or you could enter potentially a bee casino and you could go play some variation of poker or chance-based and luck-based games, right? And so I think developers will build a lot of games in those arenas really early on. I think you'll certainly see skill-based games and some of those where you can build an economy on top of it, so that maybe you're actually. I love what BR1's doing, where basically people are paying to enter, and then the better you are, the more you can actually earn in that. And I see a lot of people being able to build games like that are skill-based games, that the more skilled you can be. It doesn't have to be a first-person shooter, or a third-person shooter in their case, but it can be anything from like Mario Kart, or advancing through levels, or those types of games that allow players to essentially compete in an environment against other players and risk and potentially earn some of the tokens that they're getting either through the open market by purchasing Honey on an exchange, or just coming into Honeyland and actually earning through our play to own, and then having the ability to take those assets that you're earning, whether it's tokens or items, and being able to risk or spend or earn more of those in some of those game experiences. So we're really excited to see where the developers take that. But I certainly think that it's at first going to mimic very similarly to what you'd see in other popular, either Roblox or similar environments.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think this is super smart. Like once you have that user base that people are excited about Honeyland's lore and characters and universe, being able to open that up is going to allow other people that tap into that, IP that you've built and that user base that you've built, and they're going to want to, because it's going to be easier than kind of starting from scratch, and that's going to create a huge amount of value in your ecosystem.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right? This becomes a little bit chicken or the egg, but ultimately our egg becomes Honeyland. That's our entry point. And if we execute really well on both our NFT project with the Genesis NFT project, as well as with Honeyland, is a game that's fun, that's first fun, but also has the ability to own. And if we can nail and execute that, and we could bring in tens of thousands of daily active users, right? And eventually moving into hundreds of thousands and eventually moving into millions, then we can attract the best developers spending their time and their energy building games inside of Honeyland, because it's just easier than trying to go build their own audience, their own token, or their own marketplace, or their own economy. And so we are going to give them the assets as long as we deliver on Honeyland, and we can get tens of thousands of people interested, and eventually, like I said, hundreds of thousands of people interested in playing inside of Honeyland. Getting top tier development talent should be something that will follow pretty naturally, which we're excited about.
For sure. So tell me about the game itself. Like you said, it's kind of like a resource management strategy game. What type of game is it? How are you going to play? Like, what's your objective?
Yeah. So
give me a breakdown on gameplay.
So you'll come in, and assuming that you want to own your own bees and play the play to own missions, you'll enter through a starter pack, which will be reasonably priced, but it acts as an anti-bot mechanic that you can't just set up wallets and start owning. And so there's a small entry. I think it's very important to note that 100% of what players pay to enter in through their starter packs goes back into player rewards. So it helps to, as the environment grows and more players come in, the player rewards grow as well. And so it's a really sound and sustainable mechanic. So once you purchase your starter pack, you'll get a queen bee, a hive, and somewhere between 1 and 3 bees, depending on the starter pack that you choose. And you'll then go and choose what mission you'd like to send your bee or bees out on. And this can be, the primary missions are going to be harvesting and hunting. Harvesting, you're going and finding plots of land throughout the Universe 1 that you want to send your bees to. You can find how much nectar is on that land, which is essentially the token, how much nectar is available, how many other bees are harvesting that nectar, what's the replenishment rate, is that landform matched to the different landforms or attributes within your bees. And so you're kind of just strategizing, looking at the right plots of land and finding the ones that are going to be most advantageous to send your bees out on. You'll then organize that mission, deploy that mission, send your bees out, and your bees you'll be able to kind of watch as they're collecting. You'll know exactly how much nectar they're going to collect. What's unknown is how long it takes them to do that. So the more strategic you are in sending them out on the most advantageous missions, the faster they'll return with that nectar. You can then claim that nectar. There's a little cooldown period, and then that bee becomes available to send out on another mission. The hunting missions are identical, with the exception of the fact that they're finding NFTs and bringing those back instead of bringing nectar back. Those NFTs could have a relatively low value, or they could find rare NFTs that have a much higher value. So what they're bringing back is a little bit less known. When you're going out on a harvesting mission, you know exactly how much nectar they're going to be bringing back. You don't know exactly what the item or the NFT would be back on hunting missions. And those will typically be, level power-ups or things that would give you an advantage on a certain mission, or disadvantage other players. So those are the types of NFTs that you'll be earning. You can use those to strengthen your own colony, or you can sell them or transact in the marketplace with those as well. And so those are the types of missions. But ultimately, the idea is this is what we call proof of management. So we're not incentivizing grinders, people who can just spend 4, 6, 8 hours a day in one block in front of a computer to earn more than somebody who doesn't have that same amount of time. We want you to be able to log in. We want you to check into Honeyland 5 to 15 times a day for 5 to 15 minutes at a time for those play to own missions, right? you are just managing your colony of bees, making sure that they're out on missions, and then minimizing idle time. So once they're done with cooldown, we want to make sure that they get out on missions as quickly as possible. And so that's ultimately what you're doing. It's you know, medium to low level strategy, but it's just kind of fun. It's to some extent it's about getting bees out, watching them earn. It has this kind of like, you know, how we manage stocks or watch slot machines, like just kind of this element of like watching things grow, and even though we can't influence the outcome at that specific time, it has some sort of interest and a lot of intrigue in that capacity. And then when you come back and you get to claim your tokens and claim your NFTs, that becomes obviously a very fun part of the game as well. And then choosing how you want to use those assets. You know, do you want to reinvest in those through breeding or through purchasing other bees or items in the marketplace? When you're earning NFTs, do you want to use those on your own colony or go sell those? Do we want to use the DeFi component so that we can take the nectar, which essentially is nectar and honey are two terms that you'll hear us use. Honey is the actual token. It's earned through nectar in the game, which is like paired at 250 to 1 to honey. So you're actually, the real token is honey, but it's kind of like the cents to the dollar or Satoshis to the Bitcoin. You're actually earning nectar in the game. But you can go then stake that and or you know, create liquidity pairs and start yield farming within Honeyland as well. So that's where the DeFi, and it's all in a gamified aspect. So you get to, as you're earning and owning, choose how you're reallocating and what you're doing. That becomes a bigger part of the strategy as well.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like reminiscent of maybe some of the early Zynga games, or like games where you are doing this, I guess you called it, right, resource management, and like you're building this kind of like this bee empire.
That's exactly right.
And then you're like, everybody likes to see numbers go up. So you're like, you know, if you allocate your resources correctly, you're growing your, you know, resources, and then you just keep going from there.
Yeah, and again, you know, as you're earning honey, you know, or nectar or honey in the game, you can use that to breed and build a bigger, stronger colony. You can use that to go find items that would level up your existing colony. You can go trade it. You know, you can swap. You can get out. You can pull honey out of the game and earn. You can, you know, and so it's like choosing how you're going to, as you're going out and owning assets. Our goal, and the reason we call it, you know, play to own instead of play to earn, or play and earn, which are, you know, a lot of terms that you hear. We want people to understand that it's more valuable to own the assets that you're earning in Honeyland than it is to sell those assets. In the same way that, you know, if you sold a Bored Ape 6 months ago, you would have made a lot of money, but you would have made a lot more. That asset would have been a lot more valuable had you continued to own it instead of sell it. And so you can sell these assets and you can cash out a little bit, or you can own and hold these assets. And if we can build Honeyland into what we really feel like we can, then as the economy grows and as the ecosystem of Honeyland grows, all of those assets continue to have more and more value. And hopefully players want to continue to hold and transact in the economy and in the ecosystem, as opposed to just cashing out or seeing it as a way to earn in the short term. We want people to have real ownership and assets that they can accumulate in the long term.
Let's talk about that gamified DEX. Like, how do you think that, how is that going to be different from other DEXs out there? What's your spin on it?
Yeah, so we're definitely pulling a page out of DeFi Kingdom's book here, and that what they did so well is when you were engaging in DeFi activities, you didn't really see it as that, because you were, you know, you were planting in the garden or buying seeds. And so it was all these terms that like were everyday terms, and it made it a lot more approachable to actually start yield farming and staking and swapping. And so we're working into that exact same operating system, essentially, to where you come into Honeyland, and whether you're choosing to go breed or go on a mission or go to the marketplace or go to what are going to be these DeFi components, won't feel like you're leaving Honeyland and going into a bank, right? Yeah. It will just feel like you're playing a part of Honeyland. And in that, you can go shopping for different jewels and find, you know, trade one jewel for another jewel. But those are really representative of coins or tokens, right? Of cryptocurrency. And once you get the right amount of jewels, and you know, you trade the jewels that you want, you can go and create essentially new alloys or new compounds, which would be these liquidity pairs. So if you have enough of this metal or jewel and enough of this metal or jewel, you can combine those to create an LP token that you can then take to our honey making machine. And you just lock up any tokens, whether it's honey tokens or liquidity paired to LP tokens, depending on whether you want to stake or farm. You put those in the honey making machine, and as long as those are locked up, it's making more honey for you. You get to visually kind of see all that. And so it doesn't feel like you're going to a bank ever, or that you're doing these like complex DeFi things where you're like swapping and creating liquidity pairs and yield farming. All that stuff seems wildly complicated to most people. And so when we can just break it down in that tokens are represented by jewels, and you're creating new metals or new jewels, that's your LP. These are all things that people understand. And so we make it really easy to understand, make it fun, and through that we feel like we can introduce and make people a lot more confident so that they actually just created or just like did a whole bunch of DeFi activities without ever even knowing that it was DeFi, right? So in the same way that if I put a marker and a piece of paper on the table for my 5-year-old daughter, she's going to just start drawing. And at the end, she's created art, but she doesn't see it as art. She was just doing it. That was just fun. It was easy. She knew what to do intuitively. And that's what we want DeFi to feel like. We just want it to feel intuitive and fun. And at the end of it, we can tell you that, by the way, you just did your first yield farming transaction, or you were staking. Do you know what staking is? And so making it, or you swapped tokens, which may have seemed very, very intimidating at one point. And so that's the idea.
Are you going to do it on top of just your own Honeyland digital assets, or are you going to do it? Is it going to be an interface that's actually on top of like the world of tokens that are already out there?
So the closer to the latter,
Yeah.
which will be, we really want this to be something that has a number of pairs. I will say that and by the way, this will exist in 2 different forms. So we will have a standalone DEX as well. That you'll be able to, without entering Honeyland, you'll be able to swap tokens and stake, especially if you have Honey and whatnot. But you'll also be able to do everything inside of Honeyland. While we call it decentralized, we need to have a little bit of controls just for kind of game graphics. And so for representing every, token that we support as a jewel or as a metal, that we need to be able to create graphics for all of that stuff. And so it will be somewhat centralized in that we'll have a little bit of control, but no, we want people to be able to really get in here and engage. And so out of the gate, it will probably be a lot more common tokens that will be available. And over time, we expect to expand that quite a bit. And on the actual exchange part, the DEX that will be sitting out in the more open public, that will certainly be a lot more truly decentralized. But we're also working on some gamification even within that. Things like socializing it, creating leaderboards, creating badges and things, so that as you're accomplishing certain things, you're getting rewarded through that DEX. And again, it goes right in line with our mission of we want to introduce crypto and DeFi to millions of people by making it fun and easy to understand. And not that a lot of these DEXs out there aren't really, really good and valuable, but they're kind of confusing to some people. And so we want to introduce or be able to reach a different level of audience that is more crypto curious, not crypto savvy. And in doing so, by gamifying it through Honeyland or creating a standalone DEX that's gamified to some extent, that starts to reward and educate people to what these things are that they're doing in terms of DeFi, that we really feel like we can have a pretty big impact on the crypto world, on the Web3 world.
Awesome. I love that idea. That's cool. So tell us about the collection that you're minting with Fractal here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, sure. So it's going to be our Genesis collection. And this is the collection that is, like I said, will have not only the most utility inside of Honeyland, so in terms of the ability to go out on these missions and bring back more tokens and more NFTs to be able to breed the strongest bees. They have unlimited breeding potential. So inside of Honeyland, the utility that it will have inside of Honeyland will be the greatest of any collection or of any bees that will be inside of Honeyland. But what we really want to do is we want to, aside from that, make this one of the marquee blue chip NFT projects on all of Solana. So when you start to think about right now, we've got like DeGods and you've got SMB and you've got Degenerate Ape, right? That we want to be talked about in that same breath with this Genesis collection. And doing so by creating not only utility in the game, but value and utility outside of the game for the community. We have a really, really cool roadmap of what we're building to really reward and add value to our holders. Not just like perceived value, but like tangible value to our holders of our Genesis collection. And not just in the first week or the first 30 days or the first 3 months, but forever. And we want to continue to add this value. And some things will be easy to share and articulate early on. Things like private Discord channels, so that all of Honeyland has kind of one, but Honeyland Genesis holders has a specific channel or section of our Discord that's just for people who are Genesis holders, where we could, within that community, give a lot of perks through other communities, bring on really cool like speakers that are in the Web3 space, people like Justin Kan to come in and actually talk to that community and dedicate some time. So really providing real world value. But then we've got a number of, we want to really build an in real life community as well. So as we're going to hacker houses or NFT NYC, having private sponsored events for those Genesis holders, giving the ability to allow Genesis holders to, without the control or the centralization of like us sanctioning a in real life meetup, allow them to go do that and even sponsor part of that so that they don't have to be out of pocket, that part of the community that we can actually give back through our treasury and allow them to start doing that stuff. We believe in building a community outside of just a Web3 community, but one that has relationships in real life as well and trying to really tap into that. And so these Genesis collection is going to not only provide the most utility inside of the game, but we really want to build this as a blue chip community that we are getting the best of people who believe in the Solana ecosystem, the Solana NFT ecosystem, some of the strongest partners, people who see, like I said, more value in owning our NFTs than ever in selling. So even if our NFT, which will have a floor of 2.5 SOL when we mint, that when that's worth 25 SOL, that they still see more value in holding than ever selling because of what we continue to deliver in terms of value to the community. And I will let you know one thing that we are going to do, because we understand that 2.5 is on the high side of most Solana mints for a project like ours. I firmly believe that the scope of what our project is far greater than a lot of other projects that would be looked at as like similar, because we're not just a play to earn or play to own game. We're a lot more than that. But one of the things that we're going to do is guarantee your mint for a period of time. We'll get you exactly what that period of time is, but it's probably going to be somewhere between 30 and 60 days. That if you mint one of our Genesis NFTs and you want to, we're basically going to buy and burn the floor at whatever our mint price is for 30 to 60 days. So if you mint our project and for some reason you think that you would like to just get your money back over the first 30 or 60 days, great, list it at 2.5 SOL. I will personally, from our treasury, go buy that, and then we will burn it. It will never be owned by anybody ever again. It's how sure we are that we can add value to this community, not only through the utility of the game, which won't be available for about 3 months after the mint. So we want to keep the community, we want to let you know really early on that this is just a sneak peek of what we can do, but we have an incredible roadmap for how we're going to provide tangible value to our community outside of the utility that it has in the game, and outside of just kind of the flexibility that if we can get to be one of these blue chip projects, having one of our Bs as your PFP will give you a lot of pride. We fully expect to be there, that you will see our Bs as PFPs all over the Solana ecosystem, but we are, and that's kind of that perceived value. We have actual value that we are investing real dollars back into the community to make sure that you guys and everybody who mints a Genesis Honeyland collection will be rewarded greatly through actual tangible value from us, and that you're going to be a part of something that is really, really special. And that by being the Genesis Mint, you can get in early. And that's what I am just so excited to be able to be a part of that and doing it with Fractal, who's such an incredible partner.
And we're using sort of the Zappos method of just buying out people who don't really want to be there. So we'll buy out the fudders, and it's just going to strengthen the community.
I love that. That's super innovative. Putting your money where your mouth is, saying you were investing for the long term. Your guys' excitement is enthusiastic. Your enthusiasm is infectious. I was gonna say, I'm ready to buy. I'm ready to. I want to ape in now. So, I'm excited. That's awesome, and I love all of the different things you're doing. It's a very, it's a kind of a multimodal project, right? Like you got all these different aspects of it. Cool. Where can people find out about Honeyland online?
Yeah, so website is honey.land, so that's super easy. What a cool domain, right?
That's a good one, yeah.
Discord is discord.gg/honeyland. That's where we direct most of our traffic. We're at Honeyland GameFi on Twitter. We get a lot of traffic there. If you go to our website, though, if you go to honey.land, you'll have links to our Instagram, our YouTube channel. I'm very active and involved in the community, so I give weekly video updates that are usually 10 to 15-minute updates of everything that's taking place. We're very much working in public. We're a fully doxed team, and we're proud of that. We are in the community. This is not just that we're sitting up here and trying to make a whole bunch of money and build something cool and be totally disconnected from our community. We're in the community. We are all part of the swarm. And I think that's one of the things that makes this project really cool is that, we've all, like I mentioned, we've all had successful businesses and exits, and for none of us is this about the money. It's about the impact that we can have, and it's about being a part of building something special where we can put smiles on millions of faces through each part of these projects, right? And the smile is going to be different for everybody. Some people just want to own NFTs and watch that floor rise, or be a part of the community where they're getting special access to things that other communities don't provide. Some people want to play in Honeyland because it's really fun and they feel like that puts the smile on their face. Some people really want to earn and own and build real value in a game, and that's what puts a smile on their face. Some people experiencing DeFi for the first time, that's where their smile comes from. We're going to have developers who are going to be able to build a living through Honeyland, through our open developer ecosystem, and that's what puts a smile on their face. And I can tell you that all of us on the core team, the reason we're doing this is to put as many smiles on faces as we can, right? At the end of the day, that's what motivates me and motivates this team. And I think it's really cool when that's the motivation. It gives us a lot of direction and opportunity to do the things that we want to do that may not be conventional or may not be the most logical thing to do or tactical thing to do, but we can do it because it helps us to accomplish long term. It helps us to accomplish what we're really trying to build, right? Which is an incredible community that touches millions of lives in different ways for the better. And so I think that's one of the things that's really cool about Honeyland and this project.
I love it. Amazing. Well, Corey, Justin, thank you for joining me today. This is incredible. I'm so excited for what you guys are building.
Cool. Well,
Thank you very much for having us.
We're excited to be a part of the Fractal family. I mean, all these other projects that are launching are so cool. You guys have really gone out and not only built a really incredible platform with Fractal for both your community as well as for kind of the NFT projects, but you're bringing on such an incredible community that we couldn't be more excited and happy to be a part of. And so I want to thank you, Justin. You're somebody who, I've followed for a long, long time. From Justin TV days, literally, you've always innovated in the space and really led whatever it was, whether it was Web 2 or Web 3. And it's really cool to be a part of this project and to be a part of a community that you're building, which I think is next level.
Dude, thank you so much for saying that. It really means a lot. Thank you.